Okay, whoops, video on. Welcome everybody. There are so many moving parts today. We've got the live stream to YouTube that we've never done before. We had to set that up. We've got 6,000 people in this actual Zoom chat. We've got 7 guests. So this is very exciting. Welcome everybody. Now, I I don't want to spend like the first 20 minutes introducing everybody. So I'm just going to say the quad, which is not 4 people. It's a little misnamed, but we're going to figure out why. The quad are Erin Brenner, Sarah Gray, Adrienne Montgomerie, Katharine O'Moore-Klopf, Laura Poole, Lori Paximadis, and Amy Schneider. All wonderful people, all close friends, and so it's really a thrill to have them all here today. We haven't really figured out, we haven't done any like run-throughs or anything like that, so we're all just going to make this up as we go, and we may be talking all at the same time, and that's fine. You'll just have to figure it out. It's kind of a party. So starting out, and we'll get to know everybody hopefully in the hour. Hopefully we'll get to all your questions. Let's start out by asking everybody, all of you, or whoever wants to be the designated person, what's the origin story? Where did the quad start? Who was first? And how did it all come together?
It's all Laura Poole's fault. Laura,
Okay.
Tell that story.
It kind of is. I had met all these wonderful women at conferences. We always enjoyed each other's company and chit-chatting. And one day I randomly started a Facebook group chat with a couple of them. And we called ourselves the editorial cabal or the hexumvirate of good editing. For a while, there were 6 of us. Through various processes, some people dropped out, some people it was always a friends group first. The quad in its current incarnation was founded in June 2015 with the 7 of us, and it just was the quad. Then we realized we were 7, and we're like, let's just keep it as an in-joke. So we know there's not 4 of us, there's 7 of us, it's fine. Okay. And after some years of working together and supporting each other and even doing business together, I suddenly realized, because I've taken coach training and I'm familiar with the concept of a mastermind group, I said, you realize we're functioning like a mastermind now. We've just been doing it organically and naturally. So then we tried to have a little more deliberate nature of supporting each other, but we're still mostly just a friends group. It's still a Facebook Messenger chat with the 7 of us, with the occasional live retreat or monthly check-ins or its goals and whatnot, but mostly we're just chatting day to day.
So Laura is the member of the quad who I saw last, which is already a year and a half ago, sadly, when my wife and I went to a wedding in South Carolina, so we stopped by and saw Laura. Laura is an editor in North Carolina, and you teach, as you said, mastermind groups. How many mastermind groups have you sort of had a hand in creating?
Not all that many, really. I did train as a professional coach. It's not something I do professionally now. I will on request. But I'm more like just trainer for classes, but I use a coaching approach and sometimes encourage other people to start masterminds. Or if other people are like, hey, I want to have one, how do I do that? I'm like, well, here's some things to keep in mind. You got to be honest with each other. You got to be free to come and go if it doesn't work for somebody. A few other just guidelines. I've taught about how to do masterminds at various conferences.
Okay. And sticking with Laura for just a minute, you are the winner of the Robinson Prize for the ACES Awards.
Yes.
You may know I'm on the board of ACES. The board doesn't have anything to do with picking the Robinson winner, actually. That's a separate committee that decides. So we're thrilled. I was thrilled to find out you won it.
Thank you.
Why are there so many Robinson winners in the quad?
Because we're awesome.
Well, tell everybody how many years of experience we have collectively. That might answer the question.
Amy calculated.
Amy added it.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
Amy, you're muted.
Oh, Amy's muted.
Amy's still muted.
Amy, you're muted.
Amy, unmute yourself.
Sorry.
There you go.
There I am. So good thing I had nothing to say before now. So we have a collective 185 years of experience, which averages out to 26 years each, if we average it. So that's pretty good. I think that speaks well to.
Yeah.
I think we kind of know what we're doing mostly.
Yeah. Who's the least experienced then? Who drags the number down?
I think that's
Probably me. I'm the baby of the group.
He's the baby.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I
How long have you
am.
been?
I mean, I've been editing professionally for about 15 years, a little longer if you count freelancing on the side, and unpaid stuff. But
Mhm.
you know, I'm turning 40 this year.
You did.
Whoa, I know.
Yeah, but our
Um,
baby also won the Robinson Prize.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
Which
Sarah
I think
Gray.
has so much to do with the confidence boost and the encouragement that I've gotten from this group. You know, when these folks asked me to be a part, Laura Poole sort of, you know, put a bag over my head and dragged me to a conversation. I had no
we
idea.
need to talk about our minions.
yeah.
We need to
Yes.
talk about our minions.
You have
the
minions?
We
Yeah,
did at one
minions.
point.
Yeah.
We did at one point, yes.
We said,
'Cause well,
let's
when-
each bring in somebody.
Yeah.
And I said,
Okay.
I think Sarah Gray.
Oh,
And
so,
And I
Lori
so
said, I have
Pax?
no idea what I'm
Yep.
signing up for, but this sounds pretty great. These people are all
Yep.
really wonderful. You know, so it was sort of, for me, it was just this incredible honor that these experienced rock star editors wanted me to be part of their group. And I still feel that way, to be honest. But, you know, I think that kind of support and encouragement is exactly what has helped us all succeed.
Mhm. And so you won the Robinson Prize in 2015, and there's a little awkward secret that I can share with you. Just don't tell other people that. In some point, ACES started giving the award for the year that it was given instead of the previous year. It always was the previous year. So Laura won in 2020, but sort of for 2019, and I think Sarah, you won in 2016 for 2015.
Right. But the
Mhm.
actual trophy says 2016 on it.
Right. And Laura's says, I think 2020. So there's a gap year there. But so maybe we just go back and squeeze somebody in. I don't know.
At least something good came out of this year, Laura.
And Katharine O'Moore-Klopf was the first of the quad, which I assume before the quad, you won the Robinson Prize. And you were the first freelance copy editor to win the prize, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool because, you know, you look at the list of people who have won it, and early on, it's a lot of people whose names I recognize as big names, reporters and editors, and, you know, it's just, it feels so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And when did you join? How did you, did you have a bag put over your head by Laura also, or how did you become part of the quad? Or the group?
I was invited. I forget by whom, but you know, I love all these ladies equally, so I'll credit all of them with it.
I think you were an original member.
Yeah, I can't remember.
yeah.
You know, when you get to be my age, you forget.
There's also so many of us in there. You know, we had some come in, we had some go out. It took a while for us to solidify.
Oh, really?
It did.
So I want to get to this sort of an issue that that Erin, you addressed in answer to our question on Facebook. When we were originally going to do this, it was, I think, 4 days after George Floyd's death.
Mhm.
And we didn't because, you know, there was a lot of disruption in the world at that point. And now it's actually 4 days after RGB's death, or RBG's death, excuse me, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So the, you know, 2020 just keeps giving. But the question on Facebook was, you're all, said, you know, you don't have any people of color in the group. And I think maybe that was apparent at the time a few months ago. And what's the response to that?
I'm willing to take this. So we did discuss that. We've discussed it several times. At that time when we were discussing whether to postpone, and in the time since then. And I think the reasoning is that we didn't set out to form a mastermind group. We weren't looking for representation. It wasn't a structured thing. It just we just sort of fell into it by accident. And yeah, we happen to be 7 white women, and that's who we are. Now we do have certain other kinds of diversity among us, but we are who we are. We're a group of friends. And if we were seeking to add someone, which I don't think we are, because 7 can be kind of unwieldy to manage. We might think that way, who could we include? But it is what it is, and we would certainly encourage other groups, if they're looking to form a mastermind group, definitely keep that in mind. That would definitely be a good thing to do.
I think it's also, Erin pointed out online in that conversation, and I think it is worth mentioning, that this is sort of an example of how privilege works, right? And unconscious bias. Like, we befriended people who were similar to us. And that happened organically, right? And that's sort of how those networks tend to happen, unless you're consciously changing it. So it's something that we're definitely aware of, and we're sort of trying to figure out what the best ways are to address it, and to mentor and encourage editors of color in particular. And we are very much open to ideas on how to do that.
I think the last few months have increased our awareness of the need to sort of not just think in terms of the way we normally think about things. And that word chat, we started this because, as the idea was, I would just get a bunch of friends to be on the show. And, every episode we'd have, somebody I knew. And then after a few weeks, my producers, Heather and Erin, said, hey, we're all, everybody's white, and I said, yeah, these are the people I know well, and I had to sort of rethink and go a little bit beyond my privileged white viewpoint, and realize that and thankfully I had some friends who I could bring in, but I've also had some people I didn't really know and got to know from the show. So that's been great growth experience also. Do you spend a lot of time, I'm kind of curious about the dynamics of the group. So I know you guys talk on Facebook, that's your main source. Do you talk every day, all of you, most of you?
All day long.
Kind of a drop in, drop out, ongoing chat.
Yeah, I mean, we'll almost every day. It's on the weekends, maybe we get a little bit slower, but almost every day there's something. And it kind of goes in clusters. We'll talk for a couple minutes in the morning, and then it'll get a little quiet, and then it'll get busy, and then something will happen online or on an email list, and we'll discuss it to death among ourselves.
Or an editing question. I mean, we do.
Or an editing question. Yeah,
right.
we talk about that too.
It's one of our children just making us climb the walls.
Right. And our discussions range from professional to personal, again, because we were a friend group before we were a mastermind. We do talk about problems with editing, problems with clients. Can I get a tact check on this? I have this client that's misbehaving. I need to write this letter. Can you guys read this over and check that kind of thing out? Or I'm not quite sure how to quote this.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, we do talk about those things too, but there is an element of the personal to it, and it is a nice place. Some of the online editor groups are so large.
Right.
Editors Association of Earth with more than 10,000 or 12,000. I don't even know what they are now. Like a giant number of editors. There's smaller subgroups. There's the copy editing list with which Kathy runs, which is another good thing to talk about later. And all those other places, sometimes if you have a question and you don't want to crowdsource the answer from a lot of people that you don't really know, and you don't really know their background, you don't really trust them necessarily, So it's nice to have this small group to be able to bounce something off of.
Right. And I also like knowing that I don't have to explain myself. So I can say to you, what do I do for this? And you already know that I have X years experience, that I'm working with this type of client, that I use these kinds of resources. And I know what Amy's working on. I know what Erin's working on. I don't have to, you don't have to give your preamble and your big bio just to get an answer.
Yes.
Right.
And occasionally we have a work opportunity. Even if it's not something we do, we say, does anybody know someone I can refer this to? I like to do warm referrals, you know, like who specializes in this, or Amy and I know that I'll edit economics for her and she'll edit philosophy for me because I don't do those topics. I'm like, no, darn Amy, I can't read that.
No,
so
send the philosophy to Sarah.
Oh, okay, yes, we can Sarah get the philosophy, but that's not the purpose of the group. We are primarily a friends group, so it's easy come, easy go on the referrals. We're not hardcore about it.
So are you typical of, is that a typical mastermind group, would you say, as somebody who's done that coaching?
No, we're a lot looser,
Yeah.
which is fine. This is how we like it, being primarily friends first. It's not a regular mastermind group might have once a month meetings where they're all completely goal focused. This is my goal. The masterminds are typically for people in the C-suite and the executive suite, where it's chief officer of whatever it is. Or people in the same industry or people in the same position, and they're very career focused and they maybe don't have outside conversations about their lives. So we're a little more nebulous or porous on the boundaries of that, but that's okay. That's what works for us. Sometimes we just need emotional support. Like I just need to vent, and I know the EAE back room is private, but I just want to vent to my friends right now about this. I just don't want this being on Facebook. I just need to, I need a gut check. Am I right to get nuts about this, or am I, ramping it up too much in my mind?
Right.
I actually belong to another mastermind group that recently started.
What?
Are people jealous?
Yeah. Oh,
She's ours.
Wow.
because you guys won't run agencies.
What does that mean?
So I am in another mastermind group with 3 other women editors who want to run editorial agencies or already do so. And it is very structured, like Laura was saying. We have once a month meetings. We have a structure of what you bring to the meeting. We do have a Slack group where we're talking to each other somewhat regularly. But the goal is to do this for a year, see how it goes, but to help us grow in a very specific way. You know, we want to do editing. But we want the agency model. It's hiring other editors, bringing in enough work to feed those other editors, and all of those complications. And it's not something everybody in the quad wants to do or does. So it's another way for me to continue growing while still having the wonderful support of the quad.
Well, and I was going to ask that, is that the next step for it just seemed when I started as a freelance copy editor, I had this vision that I would probably find a group to be an agency to offer, then you can take on all the work and divvy it out by people when they have time. But that's, I never really felt comfortable. I'm not like a business. Erin has the business sense. I think I don't really have that desire. So I just keep doing what I'm doing. And
that's it. I think that some editors are freelance and they want to just do their own thing. I think some editors are freelance because there isn't an employee position out there for them and they would rather work for somebody. And I think some editors have some really sharp business sense and big ideas and want to do things. And it's all okay. What works for you may not work for somebody else. And for those editors who want to really just kind of work for somebody, limit how much business stuff they have to do, those are the editors I want to work with, because I'm happy to do the business stuff. I'm happy to do that strategy. I'm happy to coach them. I like it, but not everybody does. So,
and if we all edited the same kind of projects on the same kind of topics for the same kind of clients, we could do that. But we're very distributed about that. And I like that broad perspective, that broader variety.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've got science and fiction and science fiction and business and
Yeah,
technology and
Education,
philosophy and
textbooks,
history.
business,
We're everywhere.
magazines, journals. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, and some of, and I know Adrienne has told me that she's, much of her focus is teaching and education and doing that. Is that, I mean, you all give back, and not simply for, for in exchange for money as a business, you give back just because you do. I mean, Kathy's, editing, copy editor. I forgot the name of it. What is it?
Copy
The
editor's
copy editor's
knowledge base.
knowledge
I
base.
sent a link to it today.
It's just an amazing resource. And I think you all, am I wrong? Am I correct that you have all presented and shared your skills at conferences and webinars and things like that?
Mhm.
That's terrific. We have, if you have questions, ask them, in the chat. This is funny that we're not all talking at once. It seems to be going pretty smoothly, like we planned this, like we're doing cues, but no, it's just going smoothly. So if anybody has questions, ask them in the chat, and Heather will cue you up to ask them. And I think we've got at least one ready to go.
We do. Mary Norris has an excellent question.
Excellent.
Yes, hi everybody. I wanted to know if you discuss rates among yourselves or give advice to people who ask you about rates, because that's always been a tough one for me.
All the time.
That is a great question. And
We
yes,
definitely talk about it amongst ourselves a lot.
Yes.
I can tell you that when I first came to the quad, I was radically undercharging.
Same.
I have learned a lot about how to set rates and how to ask for what I'm worth from this group.
Mm-hmm.
And believing that you're worth it. I think that's a big obstacle for a lot of editors, for a lot of women. We don't ask for what we're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the idea that we're not worthy, and I think a group like that lets people know that you're just as worthy, and I assume you're all just as worthy. I don't know. Is Laura, are they all just as worthy? I don't know.
Can we talk about imposter syndrome for a minute?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yes.
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay,
We all
so
have it.
one of the biggest, this is one of my favorite benefits. One of the things I love to talk about, something we did in the quad. So we started doing these private business retreats. We did
Mhm.
live ones for 3 years. We did them in January. We would meet somewhere else. We went in Chicago, New York City, and Baltimore. And so however many of us were available, we got together and we spent a couple days. We did some tourism stuff, but we also sat in our suite or our Airbnb where we strategized, and we would give little mini presentations to each other. It would be kind of a dry run for maybe something we wanted to give at a conference. We get feedback and all that kind of thing. And it was at our very first, we call it Comic-Con, by the way.
Yeah.
Comic-Con. The pause that refreshes, right?
More to it.
So I don't know who came up with the idea for the imposter syndrome exercise. Was it you, Sarah? Because I know
I
you
think
were
it was Sarah.
It might have
coordinating
been
all this stuff.
Adrienne.
Was it,
Me?
you know?
Where we
You
wrote all the
become
nice
such a
things
hive
about
mind. We
each
can't
other.
Just let
remember.
it
Yeah.
melds.
Yeah.
It all just melds.
It could. I don't
So
We don't
so
remember.
we were talking about imposter syndrome, and we realized that all of us had it to some extent, even though all of us absolutely worshipped all of the others. And we were like, what? No way. I don't belong here. I can't believe you guys invited me in this group. I'm junk, and all this kind of thing. So what we did was, and Sarah kind of coordinated all of this, we all sat down and we Skyped Kathy in to do this as well. She wasn't attending. I think most of the rest of us were there, right?
Yeah,
Was it 6 of us?
Chicago. was the first
Chicago?
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we all sat down and we all wrote like a few sentences about what we appreciated or admired most about each other person. So we each wrote 6 things about the other people, and then Sarah anonymously collated all of those, and we Skyped Kathy in, and she read, okay, Amy, this is what everyone thinks about you. And Laura, this is what everyone has said about you. And by the end, we were just a sodden mess of tears. And oh my God, you guys love me.
It was amazing.
It was a total love fest, and we all just realized. I think it really helped us understand our worth, and that, and not just personally, professionally, all of that. That other people look up to us and want to be like us, whether we believe that or not. We need to learn to believe it and believe the best of ourselves because other people do. That's one of my favorite things. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was super powerful. We did those 3 in-person get-togethers at Comic-Con, and we had some special guests at some of them. So I see Mary Norris was one of our guests for dinner in New York. When we were in Baltimore, I see Barbie's hiding in there. We made her play Cards Against Humanity with us.
Oh, that was great.
We broke her. It was a little rough on Barbie. We had
I think she won.
Cheryl Saller in Chicago. Meryl, we saw Meryl on
Meryl and Martha
in New York City.
And Martha,
and Martha Schuneman. Yeah.
And I will say, just to return to rates, just to give you a specific example, Mary, I was inspired by Adrienne, who told us how she doubled her rates and then just said, as of this date, my new rates are X. I went, oh God, I could never do that. Could I do that? I should do that. And I did it. And it was this huge matzo ball, and it was scary. And I doubled my rates all at once. And I'm still probably undercharging a bit, but I was like, no, everybody gets quoted the new rates, and I'm now going above that. So having the support and the boldness, people like, yeah, you should do that. You should just do that. And the example of just bold, just don't go for it and state your rate.
And we don't all charge the same thing, Mary. It's not like we all said, okay, our rate's going to be X and we all have to charge that. It depends on where you live, who you're working for, the nature of the topic, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's more of a strategy thing. We can often, when it's really been helpful for me is when I'm trying to figure out how to price something. Maybe there's just a kind of project that I've never done before, and it's not just a simple hourly or per word rate, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do it. I would come to the quad and say, how would you price this? How would you break this out? When would you bill? And just kind of really work out the details and the strategy for it.
It's especially useful for things that aren't our daily charging, our daily invoicing materials, like tutoring someone or giving a presentation at a corporation, or right?
Yeah.
Also, out of our imposter syndrome, can I say, because I've been holding this.
Yes.
I forget who told us to start this. Maybe Erin. This is a win jar, and Erin gave us all little pads of paper that say "win jar." Wow. And every time you do something that you're proud of or you didn't think you could do, including for me cooking without burning it, goes in there.
Doesn't have to be editing related,
right? Everything actually my family started putting things in too. So at the end of the year we read all these, and there's some things for them, and there's some things that they say about me, nice things, and I say nice things about them, and it's our win jar. And I've gained confidence. The first year was much more full, but as I have fewer things that I feel surprised about, it gets smaller.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I was just gonna say you probably get out less and not much going on, but yeah, that's true. Once you feel good about your wins, you don't they just become commonplace. I loved Erin's the TARDIS win jar. Yeah, naturally.
Some people scrapbook their wins for the year too.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. I just wondered.
Just sitting there.
Oh, well, what was that? Is that all your actual wins? Yeah.
These are my actual wins.
Oh, that's last year's wins. Oh, pull it out at random. Let's see. Pull it out at random and read it to us.
An author I was warned was very prickly, responded to my editing with heaps of praise.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So you don't have to be a member of a group to do this. You can do this on
Anybody
your own.
Can do it.
Yeah.
Well, in the group chat, there's a link to a blog post I wrote about how to do this.
Oh, cool. Excellent. And I think we may have lost Kathy for a minute, but you we were talking before the show, and you guys said this is the first time you've actually all been in the same place.
I think so.
I think so.
Which, we're not really in the same place. You can't fool anybody, but so let's see, you're all East Coast. Laura's North Carolina, Sarah's Philadelphia. Adrienne, you're somewhere Ontario-ish, Toronto-ish.
Kingston,
Right.
east end of
Kingston,
Lake
that's
Ontario.
right. Okay, I forget.
Across from Oswego.
Erin's in Boston. See, I know all you. I know Amy, you're in Wisconsin.
Yep, I'm the Central Time oddball.
Right. Whereabouts in?
Oh,
And
she lives here.
This is Wisconsin.
Yeah, we know.
I live right here.
That's Michigan. What are you talking-
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I mirrored. Here's Door County, right there.
Uh-huh.
Door County. Here's Green
Oh,
Bay.
okay.
La Crosse, Madison. I'm right here. I'm an hour from anywhere.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah.
Yep.
And Kathy is Long Island, I know, and Lori is Cleveland, west side of Cleveland, west side.
Near West Side.
Yeah. And Lori is the quad member I've known the longest, I think.
Mhm.
Lori and I met here in Columbus at a EFA gathering. It was a little bit long. Yeah, it was a lunch. Right?
That was, I think, 3 different attempts at forming an Ohio EFA ago.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? Like 20. It was
Must've
right
been 10 years.
before. It was right before ACES was in Las Vegas, because you were trying to convince me to come to Las Vegas.
Right.
Or,
Right. I don't think you were an ACES member. I asked originally.
No, I wasn't.
We first talked
wasn't.
because I asked you about EFA and should I join EFA? I was already an ACES
Right.
member, and then I said, "Oh, you got to join ACES." How many of you have I convinced to join ACES? Because I do get money for just the
I
one.
don't
Okay.
think you personally convinced me, but I
Well, no,
I,
okay.
I met
personally
you at
convinced.
ACES.
I met you
Yeah, well, I
at
met-
ACES too.
Met most of you at ACES or on Twitter. Actually, probably more. Most people I meet are on Twitter, but with you guys is at the ACES conferences. So sad that we don't have that, but it's cool that there's this group to take the place. So do we have any more questions from the audience, or we Barbie says in chat that Mark and Heather bullied me into ACES, which
That sounds about right.
pretty much.
A little strong arming.
Exactly.
I've definitely
pretty
done a
much.
bit of pushing and prodding. In fact, so I took an in-house job with a publisher last year. So I'm no longer freelancing. I'm working for O'Reilly Media doing tech books, which is
Right.
amazing. And definitely not something I ever thought I'd be doing. But before everything went off the rails this spring, I had convinced several of my coworkers to sign up for the ACES conference.
Yes.
It was, I was really looking forward to that. Just kind of bringing them all in and saying, this is how the freelancers do it. And bringing those worlds together. But hopefully, in another year, we'll be able to.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we're hoping at this point, we're certainly looking at Atlanta. We're planning for all eventualities. But hopefully we're optimistic that, Georgia doesn't seem to be the smartest place to go right now, but maybe in the spring things will look up. And I think Amy, you're I have to say, I have a personal relationship with everybody in the quad, separate from, being the group. But I think Amy we've spent the least amount of time. And so if we do get to Atlanta, we should, we've been together in groups and at meals in the bar and things like that, but we should probably get to know each other.
That would be fun. I remember you encouraged me to crash the after party at one of the conferences, because we just showed up and you were like, "Come on in, we can buy you a drink, sure."
Really?
That's like Mark.
Wasn't that St. Petersburg? I think that was St. Petersburg,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh.
What happens in St. Pete stays in St. Pete. Yeah. For now.
That was one of the thing in St. Pete was I was sort of ostensibly in charge of the conference. And so when I got to the after party, the people who are, staff people said, we're kind of low on food. Should we like order some more? And I said, how many hundreds of dollars? Sure, go ahead. So I probably felt comfortable, bringing you in because I knew there would be, at least some food there for you. So it's amazing the power I had there. Yeah. So you guys have been doing this for several years. How long has the quad been this group of 7?
Since 2015.
2015, so
Around
5 years now.
June 2015.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We've been kicking around in various forms for a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
How has it changed? Has editing changed? Have you changed? Has the group changed? Sorry, it's a very open-ended question, but any of those things, what changes have we seen in the past 5 years?
Gosh,
For
all
the
of the
7 of
above,
us?
I think.
Sorry?
Years path have changed or morphed or nudged.
Mhm.
Well, one of the
Sorry,
big
what?
things was that 2015 was also the year that Erin and I joined forces and bought
Right.
copyediting.com. And that had been in the works for a while. And so just in case anybody wonders how that happened, it was a random conversation that Erin said, because we were both already freelancing for copyediting.com. And she now knows not to make any offhanded comments around me, because she said, if I had my way, I'd just buy copyeditor.com. And I said, oh, yeah, I should do that. We should do that. I got really excited. And then sometime later we did do that. And we were touched really at the reception we got among the editing world when we made the announcements that copyediting.com was back in the hands of editors. People knew us and knew that we edited and were really excited about that. So that was a grand adventure. We're very happy with where we left it when we sold the assets to Aces so that they're still available. We took it from should have been shut down years ago because it was losing money to actually rolling out new products, things that we were inventing, like the mentorship groups. Nobody else has ever done that. And I was ahead of training. I excited about some of the training stuff we did, and we were doing some really cool stuff. Erin was in charge of the publications. So that was one of the biggest adventures we went on.
Yeah.
I think collectively we are all more confident, more willing to take risks and do new things. I think as a group we have developed, as we keep saying, we're a group of friends, and we kind of backed into the whole mastermind thing. And so we've brought some things in that we thought might help us, like the live retreats and the online retreats. We did a writing retreat one year where it was online, but you checked in, here's what I'm doing, you wrote for a while. It was great. I was so productive that week.
It was really good.
Our monthly check-ins with goals have been helpful to me. We've instituted different things, tried things out. Some things work, some things don't. We're willing to play with the form a little bit, but certainly the Facebook chat is the thing that has stayed. That's almost any hour of the day you can go in and somebody's up. Somebody's awake. Amy's on the late end of the day. Laura and I are on the early end of the day.
Are there any
I have to say for myself, I just want to say briefly, so when I started editing in 1995, I'm the unicorn in which I never worked in-house. I just said, hey, I think I'll be a freelance editor. And I just totally taught, did my own training, did my own figuring the whole thing out. But it's very isolating when you live out in the, middle of Wisconsin. And I didn't know anybody except for people on Copy Editing L. And that was just very distant. It was words on the page. But around about the time that Quad started, that was when I kind of started attending conferences, the bigger conferences, and getting to talk to people and getting to know people and learning that, hey, I'm like a senior editor now. Like I know stuff. I can help other people. I can share. And so that's how I got the idea of doing presentations, and all the Quad members have just been great in supporting all of that and encouraging that and inspiring it in what they do. And I was just chatting with another edit buddy the other day, and she said, wow, it's just amazing how far you've come since I first knew you. And this was someone from back in my early Copy Editing L days. And I thought about it, I said, yeah, you're right. I'm all networked. You know, I'm working on projects that I would never have imagined before. And a lot of that is so much due to the quad. And I can't say enough about mastermind groups and how they can help deal with that isolation that freelancers have, especially, you know, like when you live out in the middle of nowhere like me, where you can't just hop off to an EFA meeting, or, you know, I could hop the train to Chicago if I got, you know, a day to kill, but it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback on that, you know, that was very much the case for me too. I started freelancing a year after I had a baby. So, you know, suddenly I didn't have any freelancing community, any support from other editors. I didn't really know that many other moms either. I was sort of, among my friend group, I was one of the first to have a kid. So it was just sort of this very lonely period. And then, you know, the two things that really changed everything for me were, you know, beginning to come to editing conferences. You know, I went to Communication Central and then ACES in 2014 and 2015, met the quad. And I started having Friday night meatball dinners and inviting people over. And those two things brought all sorts of community that changed my life in every conceivable way. And really allowed me to go from, you know, bright young person who's figuring out her way to actually really having a presence and a career.
That's great.
I shared
and
this with the quad back when I started freelancing in 1995. It was 2 weeks after my second child was born.
Oh, wow.
I did not know any other freelancers, and I was earning $15 an hour to proofread.
The good old days. Well, and my experiences, it was similar. I mean, I was in newspapers. I was a copy editor for all my life, but then when people stopped reading newspapers during the recession, and I was laid off, my immediate response, and I think I'm very clever for doing this, my immediate response was immediately to sign up for ACES. And so I went to the Minneapolis conference and got to meet people and made connections that, you know, I mean, I actually was one of the, under the unusual situation in newspaper, you actually work with other copy editors. You actually have a dozen copy editors all around you, you know, that you can talk to and bounce things off. But then, you know, and I think especially during these times with the pandemic, with the difficulty of getting out, and we can't get together and for conferences, it becomes, you know, that much more important. I think we have a question from somebody about how to deal with that and how to get a mastermind group sort of as a thing.
Yes, how to get a mastermind group off the ground. Stephen, do you want to unmute and ask your question in more detail?
That's essentially all the detail. How do you start such a group? You know, especially when, like, for me, I've been freelancing for 10 years and really feel the isolation, and really only over the last couple of years have gotten connected through, you know, EFA, Yay, Facebook groups. So do you have any suggestions for getting something like started when you can't go to conferences and then also don't really have a lot of connections?
You know what worked for me was I couldn't travel a lot when my children were very young because I was also the daytime care provider for them. And now I can't travel much because now I'm the daytime caretaker for my elderly mother-in-law. So, but what really, really helped was getting active on Twitter and on Facebook, and doing that, looking for specific people, not just people who talk about what they baked for lunch. You find people that you feel a connection with, and, you know, you just approach them off list, you know, privately, and say, you know, can we be accountable to each other, or do you know any other people that we should do this with? And you just try it, and that worked for me for a lot of situations.
And I think too, it's important to be open to the group shifting or evolving, you know,
Mhm.
bringing new people in or other people realizing it's not quite the right fit for them. Like, I don't think you can go into it and say, okay, where are these 4 people or 6 people or whatever, and this is it, it's set in stone. You know, give it some time to kind of evolve and grow and change as you need it to.
I would add too, think about who you're sort of a peer with. You know, you don't have to necessarily be in exactly the same place in your career, but it's really helpful to have, you know, people who are beginning their careers or people who are mid-career, you know, who are sort of in a similar zone, I think, because you sort of understand each other's problems a little more. Also, you know, think about branching out beyond your own specialties too. I think one of the reasons that I sort of felt safe at the very beginning in this group was that I wasn't thinking of anyone else in the quad as a competitor. We were all doing very different kinds of editing. We were working for very different clients. I wasn't worried that they were going to go, you know, steal my clients. It wasn't an issue. And it's really nice to have those different perspectives too. You know, something that I think is completely normal in academic editing or technical editing might be done totally differently in medical editing, and Kathy will have a different perspective on it.
And as much as it's nice to have someone who understands, say, the science editing that I do, sometimes other topics pop up and I don't know how to handle them because they're not something that I usually deal with in my manuscript. So I can say, how do I deal with this question? And somebody in the group knows.
Yep. Or know someone who knows.
Yes.
Right.
But it does,
Yeah, I
it
find
does
it-
take time. It takes time to gel. So you have to, you have to give it that time. You have to be willing to be a little vulnerable, to share a little bit. But yeah, you just you have to give it the time. And if it's not working for you, it's okay. It's okay for you to leave and try something else. It doesn't always happen on the first shot.
And it does require honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you know, we're like, hey, that was a little hurtful. Did you really mean it that way? It's like, oh no, sorry, I was angry. It's like, well, let's talk about a better way to phrase that, or and confidentiality on some stuff. You want to keep it confidential, what's in the quad. And so we rely on that.
I was about to ask, what are the deep, dark secrets that we should all know about?
Well, that's confidential. We're not going to spill any tea today.
Some of us
but
are using a fake background.
Wait, is that fake? That looks real to me.
That's because you don't want to see all the junk in my living room.
Oh, Laura is definitely, yeah, we've seen Laura's background.
I'm literally hiding bodies. No, I'm not. But I just want to say honesty with everyone. If someone says, you know, am I out of line and asking for this? And like, you're not out of line, but you're not likely to get it if you ask that way. So like, maybe try this, or would this be a more reasonable ask? Because sometimes we're stuck in what we want and we can't see. And sometimes the honesty is, this group isn't working for me. We've had one member who was just a previous member who was just much farther along in her career than we were, and the group really wasn't serving her. So she just kind of faded out. We're like, we know, it's okay. This wasn't for you. It's all right. We admire you, but you don't need to spend your time here if it's not serving you and supporting you.
And sometimes you have to change how you interact too. You know, for me, going in-house meant that, you know, I interact with the chat differently. I'm not on the chat during the day really anymore. I'm popping in and out in the evenings. You know, I'm not thinking about freelance questions. I'm thinking about a very different set of questions in office politics. And I have a team at work who I'm bringing, you know, my more specific day-to-day questions to, but I've got this wonderful group of friends who are supportive, who I know I can come to. So even though, you know, my way of interacting has changed, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the group doesn't work for you. It's a personal decision.
I think that trust and that honesty, they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, that the quad is one of our safe spaces. We all know that we all trust and admire each other and value each other. And if for some reason we, you know, accidentally, you know, annoy each other or you know, upset someone, it's not intentional. And we've always been, there have been, you know, occasional disagreements, and we've always managed to bring it back around and say, okay, you know, this is where we all belong. This is our place where we all come when we need, you know, that advice, that support, and that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody in our mastermind group is here to impress anybody else. We are who we really are. We're goofy, we're smart, we're clueless, we talk too much, we don't talk enough. You know, we're who we are.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I think that is something when you're with a group of people who you don't know very well, you do have that sort of, you're wondering how you're evaluated, and you guys have probably gotten to the point where you're not going to worry too much about, you know, how you appear to your group.
No.
Yeah, I've certainly, you know, when I came in, there were, you know, I'm not a very good business person. I'm not great at the financial side of things. And there were things that, you know, I felt kind of ashamed that I had messed something up. And at first I didn't want to tell anybody. And when I finally did and talked about it with the group, they were incredibly helpful and really helped me, you know, get through it and sort it out. It wasn't the end of the world, as it turned out. You know, and I don't think that I would have been able to deal with it in the way that I did if I hadn't, you know, been vulnerable enough to say, this is my problem, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you guys share that, like, the great catches or the, you know, the hilarious thing that you saw in editing. Do you also share the, you know, oh my God, I just let something through that was.
Oh yeah.
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 And you
The
can't do
shameful
that.
confessions.
Yeah, shameful
you can't
confessions.
do
We
that
definitely
generally.
have those.
Yep.
Yes.
But it has
Wouldn't put
an
on
actual
Facebook
name.
necessarily.
That would be that'd be the
jar.
fail jar.
Yeah, the
That's
fail
jar.
jar.
We're not going to collect those.
No.
Over there.
But
Yeah.
sometimes
But it
you
must
just
be-
need to commiserate and go like, oh, I can't believe I screwed that up. And then you can release it and let go. And it's okay. And I'm pretty quick to laugh at myself. So it's fine. I'm usually like, look what a dummy I was, you know.
And hey, we even tell each other when we mess up with a client occasionally, you know, and we're comfortable enough with each other to say, you know, I think you might want to handle that a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so much from these people, and, you know, I've been doing this forever. I'm still learning from them.
Right. I'm curious. I didn't want to ask, like, let's do the superlatives, you know, most likely to succeed, you know, but I am curious, there must be different personalities in the group. Who's the organizer? Who's the one who plans these gatherings and things
Laura.
like that? Is there one?
For the live retreats, I was definitely the instigator, and I would find the place that we would stay, and yeah. So that definitely, I like the travel agent of the group to a certain extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although
Once we're on site,
Lori also.
Yeah, Lori's the boss duck.
Yes.
The boss
Yeah,
duck, really?
Yes.
We often say this because, you know, when we're traveling, when we're at a conference or we're going somewhere together, Lori is the person who's always really thought through the destination and looked at the maps and knows exactly where to go. And so the rest of us will just sort of follow her.
And I one time I called her the boss duck instead of the mama duck, and it kind of stuck.
I actually had cards made up that said, I am the boss duck.
Yeah.
I can't find my boss duck card.
It's there somewhere.
It's right
I don't
here.
know where I put them.
It's right here.
Might be across the room over there.
Who's the young duck, the wayward duck? Is there somebody you all have to look out for?
No.
Everybody
takes
takes a turn.
circumstances of the day.
Yeah.
Everybody takes a turn.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's you know, whose pandemic is getting the most stressful, you know, whose family situation is getting really intense. Like, there's always something going on with someone.
Yep.
Yeah. And that, how are you dealing with the pandemic? And I don't want to necessarily ask everybody to answer individually, but how how I mean, the group must be beyond just the dealing with the pandemic in a professional basis. We've been talking about that. It must be a lot of what you do must be talking about those personal things.
Sure. Yeah, hey guys, I can't climb out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
Something's funny.
Or, hey
Yeah.
guys, I've been in this house with 2 other people and a dog for the last 6 weeks, and I haven't seen anyone else, and I can't stand it anymore. You know, just to be able to vent.
Yeah.
It has
and
been
also,
helpful.
Yeah, and you know, with kids and dogs and elders and grandkids, I mean, we all have a lot of care that we do, and it's really helpful to have a safe space to talk about all the things that come up with that you wouldn't necessarily want to talk about in public.
You don't really need to even talk about editing and work to have a successful mastermind group.
Depends
Yeah,
on
right.
what your
I don't think
goal is.
Yeah.
We're sort of part mastermind group, part support group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And friends, it's all mixed in there.
Yep.
Right. You know, we're at 5:30. We've done an hour, and somebody said that somebody tweeted it. I see this on Twitter. Somebody said that each of you individually would be worth having as guests on the show, and I know we have all 7 of you, and I hope we got to hear from each of you. Is there anything that you want to add that we should know about you personally, about the group, or about
Well, I'd like to lift up my laptop and show a little bit of the inside of my brand new office.
Yes.
oh my gosh, yes,
Kathy's
I'm glad you
office.
mentioned that. I meant to ask that. Yes.
There's the front door.
Wait, that's a window.
You can't see it behind
We see you.
Yes. The sliding glass door. Let's see, here's windows and windows and windows. I'm all about windows. I can't stand darkness. There's a heater. There's a knee wall that my sit-stand desk is going to go against. Right now, my laptop's on a picnic table.
Okay. We're seeing you. Are you showing us the back of your laptop?
Was I oh, I didn't turn it around the other way. Well, I am
No,
technologically
Don't worry about it.
silly. Do I do it the other way?
There.
Oh, it's
Oh, that's
gorgeous.
nice.
The door.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, wait, windows in the ceiling. That's great.
Oh my gosh, and all handmade.
Learn how to open the giant skylights at the top.
Yeah.
We're
hoping that-
Workspace now.
We're hoping that Kathy will do a video tour for everyone once she gets moved in.
Yes.
You know, all those years I was working in the kitchen, along the wall of my kitchen, early on with babies next to me or sleeping on me, and then later with time when I'm doing homework and interrupting me, and then everybody comes home from work now and yaks at me in the kitchen because it's a gathering place. So
Yeah.
I don't
So,
know
Laura-
if you feel like this office, but several people among us have invested in noise canceling earphones since, and I believe we're the first ones to have those.
Yes, I think every editor should have a pair of noise canceling headphones. You know, I have one, but you know, it feels claustrophobic after a while. So.
Right. Mine gets a little bit warm after a while, so I got these on.
I'm just pulling mine off constantly to answer questions.
Lori, you've done a lot of construction. Have you done anything with your office and all this construction you've been doing over the years?
Not a lot, no. So you can see my bookshelves. There's like another, I'm mirrored, so I got to think about this. Where am I? So behind the door. So like
Nice.
one and a half of these is my husband's. But no, we really haven't done a lot in here, just the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So
Well, it is nice.
This is wonderful because my ill-fated last in-house job, I literally worked in a converted broom closet. So it was like the janitor closet, and they took all the janitor stuff out, put a couple shelves in and a desk, and like that was it. And so no windows, no nothing. I have a window in front of me, I have a window to the right of me. If I look through the door, I can look through the sliding glass door out into the woods behind us. And so this is my heaven. I love this office so
Right.
much.
Yeah, and we sometimes you post pictures of wildlife outside your window. So
Yeah, well, actually earlier you
exciting
might have
too.
seen me kind of like looking off to the side that we had
Yeah.
3 turkeys just walking by. So, you know, they tend to catch my attention.
Oh, wow.
when I go
Yeah.
by. I
All
post
right,
a
well,
lot
we're
of
gonna-
pictures of turkeys on Instagram.
We're gonna let people go. We got 5 minutes over, and just want to say how wonderful it is to see you all again finally, and I'm looking forward to more get-togethers with all of you. And thank you really for all that you guys do. You know, not necessarily just as the quad, but individually, you all give to the community in terms of. You know, you're sharing your knowledge in presentations and articles and webinars and all this, and it's just terrific. And so appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for being on the show. Next week, come back, everybody, because we've got Carol Fisher-Saller. So that's going to be a lot
There
of
she
fun.
is.
And she's somewhere here. Yeah, we could just continue. We just do another hour right now with Carol Fisher-Saller. Why not?
This has
All
been
right, well, thanks.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks very
you.
much,
Thanks
everybody.
for having us, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great to
and I
see
need
all
to-
these faces.
Yeah.
Yay.
Now I'm going to go read the chat.
I know.
Right?
All right. Sharing screen. Yeah, this is all I always have this technical issue to, there we go. Bye-bye, everybody.